Hey everyone, I'm Chance from Chappell Sound, and just a quick announcement before the video, my website is now up. Head over there for more tutorials, templates, and a ton of cool stuff. Enjoy the video. Thanks guys. What's going on everyone? I'm Chance from Chappell Sound, and today I'm testing out the new CLA MixHub plugin released yesterday by Waves. Now this plugin is designed to eliminate your thought process when mixing, and by that I mean it doesn't allow or force you to make decisions on which plugins you want, which EQ, which compressor, etc. It's designed to emulate a console workflow, more specifically that of an SSL, which is great for me since that's what I learned everything on. Today we're going to focus more on the method and workflow rather than the sound of the plugin, but just for a comparison, I'm bringing in a mix I did through the SSL Duality titled I'm Alright. Now let's have a listen.
Slipping through my hands, back in the darkness, blind the day. Bring back the light. Where is the pleasure in the pain? Where is my shelter in the rain? Well, I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
So in order to get the same feel and workflow, I started out by putting a UAD SSL bus compressor on the mix bus here. And it has the same exact settings that I used during the original mix. We're going to keep our routing pretty simple here, nothing too crazy, just the individual audio tracks and 3 effects tracks, which I'll get to in a second. So first, as we open up the plugin, you see we have our input section. And what's nice about the input section is that you can overdrive the channel and force some harmonics into the signal by using either the line or the mic input, which I'm going to be using on my duplicate bass track. Next is our equalization section, which is a standard SSL EQ. Always sounds good to me, so that's fine. Then we have our dynamic section, which has our compressor and a modified gate and a really cool compressor mix knob. Then we have an insert section where we can go in and add any Waves plugin that we have, and we can change the order of the processing on all 3 of these modules, which is really nice. And another cool thing about the dynamic section is that we have not only the desk compressor, but we have the Blueface 1176 compressor, which we can swap between by hitting this type button. So that's also really cool. Now let's get into buckets for a second. I'll click on bucket view here, and I already have everything assigned. So if we go to the input section, we can see kick, snare, toms, percussion, and overheads all here. The reason the sections are split into buckets of 8 is that 8 channels constitutes a section on the SSL. Now over here for the vocal verb channel, I have it running almost the same way I used on the SSL Duality. Let's go to channel view. And what I did was I put the Abbey Road Plates reverb first, only behind the input. And in the original mix, I used the Lexicon PCM reverb directly into the board, so I had complete control through the inputs. But since we can't get it through the input or before the input, I don't have use of these filters, but that's okay because we still have our high and low EQ where we can just shelf some of that out. Since I don't have any Waves delay plugins, I decided to use the stock Mod 3 delays I used during the original mix through the board, and I just ended up running them through the MixHub. All right, now that all the prerequisites are out of the way, I think we can start the mix. The way I always start my mixes is to come over here and drop all the faders on the output section or Pro Tools or the board, whatever it may be, all the way down and start from there. I used to start at 0, but that would end up with me overgaining and overcorrecting things, so I like this route much better. So first we're going to start off with the drums. In the drum bucket, start with the output section and start by bringing the faders up. Okay, so now that we have a rough mix, I can go ahead and add some EQ to start off, and we can always come back later after we've added everything else in. What I noticed in the original board mix was that I didn't quite have enough high end in the kick drum to make it cut through the mix. So let's address that right now. And right there, I just used the CLA technique of not even really taking and moving the frequency, but just topping out up to 15 on the high end. So now what I like to do is turn the bell on the low frequency EQ, turn the gain all the way up, and now we're gonna search for the fundamental of whatever drum it is, whether it be kick, snare, toms. I do the same thing for all, and I boost that a bit, giving it just a little bit more natural attack without using compression. Okay, now that we have the drums, let's go back to our EQ section. Actually, let's go back to our input section. So now for the snare, we can roll off up to about 80 is always a safe spot. The toms, there's not really a deep tom on this, so 65 is cool. Percussion, there's no real, there's a conga and something else that I'm not quite sure what the name of it is, but neither are too deep, so 88 is okay. Then overheads, we can take the kick out of the overheads, really. So about 105, 107, somewhere in there is always fine with me. Let's see if we need to add any type of level or anything in the input section just while we're here. Okay, so now let's go ahead to the bass and start having some fun with that before we go back and start EQing the rest of our drums. Okay, so what we did just there was add a bunch of input gain to the duplicated bass. Then rolled off up to about 90 decibels because we want the distortion, but we don't want the distortion affecting the low end. We only want the distortion helping and not muddying up our low end, just so we can use the two in combination. And actually, let me see if we can go a bit higher on the filter without losing anything. And while we're here, let's go ahead and address some of the boxiness. So let's drop this down to about 450, excuse me, hertz. Take out about 3 dB of gain from there. Now let's see how this sounds. Okay, so now the bass guitar has a consistent growl, and you can see I have the level or the meter set to output. You can see that it's not moving very much, and that's because overdriving it and distorting it is just flatlining the sound wave. So there are no more dynamics once we fully distort something like this. So we don't have to worry about compression unless we just wanted to make it louder. So I think now we can head over to the next section. So let's go to the piano output. And actually, I'm going to skip to a different part of the song just so I make sure I'm mixing where everything is in. So let's highlight this section. So what I was just doing there was removing some of the boxiness in this is actually at 680 hertz, and then some top end at 7K and 4 decibels above 8K. And that's just to give it the shine right at the frequency where the piano is most dominant. That's another way of adding either attack or focus to certain instruments without just compressing it to bring the level up, is adding some more shine and clarity to it. So now let's go to the guitar. And I'm kind of avoiding compression right now, and we'll get to that later. But right now, I just want to make sure that we have a good static mix before we go adding compression or anything of the such. And since these are all mono tracks, there is no pan knob on the mono version of this plugin. So we're still controlling the pan via Pro Tools. So what I'll do is go ahead and I will pan these guitars left and right to make the third guitar more so of the lead. They seem a bit too far wide. There's a lot going on in the left guitar, not so much in the right guitar. So let's bring them back in just a bit, but still getting them off of one another. Okay, so let's have a quick comparison to the original mix. So I'm going to differ from the board mix a little bit. I had this guitar panned right in the board mix. I have it panned center here. And what I'm going to do is keep it center since it comes in every now and then and the other two guitars are consistent. So I want them on the left and right kind of playing off of one another in the stereo field. So now we'll highlight another section, which will be these vocals right here. and see if we can get the vocals in a good spot before we move on.
Where is the peacefulness of mind? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine.
And actually, I'm going to go ahead and change one thing just so that you can see the stereo version of the plugin. I'm going to take these and put these on a stereo track. I'm just going to title it BGVs. I'm going to send it to the same mix bus. And then we're going to put a CLA MixHub on there. Okay, so now let's bypass those two. As a matter of fact, we can make those two channels inactive. Let's go ahead and get this colored correctly. Just because I like to be able to know just by looking at it and seeing what color it is, what instrument I have. Let's go to the vocals. Okay, so let's bring those down a bit, and now let's try and bring them back in. Let's highlight this same section. Let's move this out of the way.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. They're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mind? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order, but know I will always have.
And now we can see that since we've added a stereo version of the plugin, we have this width knob and this pan knob. So what we're gonna do for these backgrounds, just to start us off, is we're gonna try out this extra wide knob. And we're gonna go ahead and skip to the part where the backgrounds are.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order, but know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright.
Okay, so it did make them a little more wide. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Blueface 1176. And I'm going to really compress these to blend them into the background. And take away some of the dynamics. So let's lengthen up the release here to where it doesn't come off of them so quickly and it's really keeping them in place.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, put it back in order, but know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, put it back in order, but know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, putting back in order, but know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
So now let's compare with the original mix real quick.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me.
Sorry about the level difference, but instantly I can hear that the backgrounds are more so tucked in the back there. Let's see if we can get them something between what we currently have and what we did in the original mix.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the
Okay, all right. So those are the backgrounds I want. Now let's go back to bucket view and let's have some fun with the lead vocals, shall we?
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
And if we want to cheat a little bit, we can go to the channel view of the snare and just see if SSL has anything, or excuse me, if CLA has anything for us. And he does. Let's try the snare top one.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too,
And also, I hear a little bit of ringing. So, what I'm going to do is try and sweep around and find that ringing frequency. I think it's about 800.
At the corner, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too. A little piece of you.
So, let's go to the channel view for the overheads. And actually, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the backgrounds and create a stereo track where we can affect both of them at the same time. Also, let's assign these back into the same bucket. So they were cool overheads before, but what I'm doing is trying to not so much squash them, but really compress them to bring out the rest of the kit at a constant level. And we're going to blend it back into the rest of the kit right now.
I know the seasons right to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. They're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too.
So sweeping through doesn't work as well on here because it distorts a bit. On the actual board itself, it doesn't do that. But okay, I think we found the transient, the fundamental that really will help boost the transients. And now let's find a little more beater in the high mids.
Reasons you've arranged, they're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up.
The plugin saying that it's overloading the EQ and dynamics, but I'm tend I tend to believe that means it's overloading what would be the analog side. So I don't think that has an effect on us digitally. I don't think that's digitally clipping. So I'm going to leave that alone. And I am going to add a filter to about 35 because we don't really need, actually, no, let's bring it down to 30. We don't need the low lows. All right, now let's go to where the toms are really active. Let's get this out of the way. So let's see what CLA has for us for toms. Okay, that's pretty much what I would have done. It looks to me like he used the bell and found the general frequency because this is a stereo pair of overhead toms. Then the frequency is going to be different for each tom for the fundamental. So a general area and just boost that. He took out a lot of lower mids, which gives you some of the odd ringing. So okay, I would have done that as well. So this looks like a quicker way to just what I would have done really. And let's bring up a filter. Let's get about under 45 out of there. I know that might seem like the lazy route, but hey, presets are always useful. So now, next up is the percussion. So now let's let the drums play through a larger section. See if we can find the hook or the chorus. All right, so let's capture this section. As I pick up the pieces that are left of me, I'm alright. Being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, putting back in order. I know I will always have this too. A little piece of you. That are left of me, I'm alright. Being away And for those of you that may not know, the reason you don't see a makeup gain knob on the SSL compressor is because it has an auto makeup gain feature inside of it. So, however much you're getting on gain reduction, it's putting back into the channel for you. So, you don't have to worry about it. One thing I'm looking for in this mix is to have everything heard, but not everything stick out, if that makes sense. I want you to know that the congas are there, but I don't want them driving the mix. I want you to know the piano's there, but I don't want you to focus on it. I just want it to subconsciously be there. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna try and see if we can add this reverb channel. It may cause a distortion issue like it did earlier. We'll see. And I don't even have it in a bucket, so we're just gonna go directly to the channel and edit it from here. So I've timed out my reverb, which is always important. I have the pre-delay at about a 30-second note. The damper, which is essentially the reverb length, I haven't tested yet, so let's find out together what that'll sound like.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, putting back in order. Let's have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, be away from you. And I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright, as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, be away from you. And I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. I know I'll always have a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you.
And actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the backgrounds on the same reverb and just reduce the send a bit and see how that sounds.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning.
So I'm trying to figure out exactly how long I want this reverb. Let's shorten it a bit and see what that gives us.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me.
All right, so let's try that. I'm starting to think that it was more delay than reverb in the original mix. I'm starting to actually think I didn't use a reverb, and that's why the track wasn't here, because I'm certain I would have printed it back in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the delay, and I'm gonna mute the reverb for the time being. And yes, my teacher in audio school would have killed me if he saw what I just did, but you know what? We're gonna try it out and let it ride. See how it works.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll. But no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you, and I'll be fine cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you, and I'll be fine cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up.
Okay, so I like that delay, and now we have it in mod delay. We have it synced up. We have an eighth note on the left, a 16th note on the right, and so that is fine by me. Actually, let's try and add some groove to it. Let's see what happens then.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you, and I'll be fine cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you, and I'll be fine clean out the corner, putting.
And somehow we ran into that distortion. Yeah, we've hit that distortion effect again. So let's go ahead and deactivate this. And actually, it may have something to do with me. It may be my sound settings, because I have the sound from Pro Tools running to my ScreenFlow, and then I have the sound from ScreenFlow running to my Apollo, so I can hear everything. So it may have something to do with those settings. I'm not sure. This has never happened before with this type of distortion. But let's get back to it, shall we?
I'll be fine cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, piece of you. I'm alright.
I'm starting to think I went a bit more crazy with the compression on the backgrounds in the original mix. So what we're gonna do is add a CLA 2A.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you, and I'll be fine cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you. Cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you, and I'll be fine cleaning out the corner, putting back in order.
Okay, so I think they got us a little bit closer. And we're not exactly trying to recreate that mix, just approximate it, just to see really. So far, I'm impressed. I really like the plugin. I'm tempted to buy it, in all honesty. I really like it, and it brings me back to the feel of working on an SSL. And that's just, like I said, that's home to me. That's how I learned. So now let's get this guitar delay. Let's affect this mix bus, and then let's see how everything came out. And before we do that, let's see how much gain reduction we're getting on the bus compressor.
I'm
Okay, cool. I usually try on my bus compressors to get right at about what I deem to be 3 dB of compression. But 1 to 2, let's play it one more time to see exactly what it was getting.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine.
Okay, that's fine with me getting about 1 to 2 decibels of gain reduction because it's just gluing everything together. I usually wouldn't move the threshold that far back, but I do have that 2 to 3 dB of compression that I want to hit every single time. So now you can hear when it's in and out, it's adding a bit of glue, sticking everything together and just making everything really nice. So now let's affect this guitar delay and see what we have.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too. A little
And it would probably help if we sent the guitars there. Start off with guitar delay. And let's just make these all unity and pre-fader. All right.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright.
I think that's pretty cool. I think it's kind of telling behind everything, which is perfectly fine. And adding an extra little groove to everything in the guitars, that's cool with me. So once again, I like to filter my effects. So we're gonna filter those. You've seen me do it a lot during this mix. I take out 4 to 500 and everything, except for on the percussion. I just don't like the sound of it on anything. Sometimes if a mix sounds too thin, I'll go back in and add a little bit more to some of the tracks that I took it out of. But in general, I don't really love the way 400 to 500 sounds on most things. All right, so let's keep rolling.
As I pick up the I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too. A little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too. A little piece of you.
All right, so I really like where everything's sitting. And we didn't use any parallel compression. We didn't use any bus compression for the individual instruments. We just did a simple straight through board mix. And I really like where it got us. And it's even comparable to the original mix, which is great by me. I really like this plugin. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to listen all the way from the top and compare.
I lay on my fears and help me, I think I am falling. Does anybody hear me calling? Help me dry all my tears and help me, I lay on my fears and help me, I think I am falling. Does anybody hear me calling? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that I left in me. I'm alright, get away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the car, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too. Oh, yeah. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that I left in me. I'm alright, get away from you, yeah. I'll be fine. Cleaning out the car, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too. A little piece of you.
So one last thing I want to add is a bit more feedback on the guitar delay at the very end to see if we can get it to ring out a bit more. So let's just try it now.
Know I will always have this too. A little piece of you.
Okay, cool. And of course, this isn't a finished mix. You can always go in and automate the faders to do automation, do vocal rides, do energy rides with the drums and guitars and keys. You can bring everything up, bring everything down in certain parts. There's all types of stuff you can do. But just for a simple mix, just to show off the plugin and get the real SSL feel, I think this plugin nailed it. I'm a fan. Thank you guys for checking out this video today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe and let me know. I hope to see you all again next time and have a great rest of your day.